Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for watching. Week two in the book, so I thought it would be a good time to look at the biggest storylines around the league. And I thought one of the easiest ways to do that really was to go through each team and do sort of revised power rankings and just run through where we think each team stands 2 games into the season and really how we kind of see the season shaping out from here. Because I think even though we're only obviously 2 games in, I think there's enough to go on now, and there's enough data in the system to have some good opinions on where we think both the league is in general and certain teams are. I think before we dive into this team by team breakdown, in terms of just where the league's at, it seems like in general, there was a lot of movement this off season in terms of offensive personnel moving, whether that be head coaches, quarterbacks, or offensive coordinators moving. There's a lot of young and inexperienced quarterbacks starting at the moment in the league, and I think all of that combined, there's a reason why it seems there's a lot of sloppy football going on at the moment. There's a lot of bad offense. It seems like scoring's down. So yes, I'd say just in general, it seems like one of these seasons where it's going to be. We've had obviously the last few years, we've seen the league become more and more explosive, more and more a scoring league, and these high scoring games and back and forth. And it just seems like we've taken a slight step backwards at the start of the season. So I think it's definitely something to keep note of, and potentially maybe as we get further into the season, we'll see teams adapt and scoring start to work again. But for now, it definitely seems like we're looking at towards there's been a slight regression in terms of how easily teams are finding to score. So I think what we're going to do is just we're going to put all the teams into categories just to get a good idea of where we think everyone is. I think it's a useful exercise, and hopefully it's a nice visual way of just seeing how where we see all the teams. So we're just going to go through them in the alphabetical order that are in the bottom here, and just hopefully try and quickly have a little combo about each team. Cardinals, broken. Haven't played badly. They've been involved in both games. Should have beaten the Giants. Obviously, they were up by 3 scores at halftime. Absolutely perfect tanking job, though. They're not going to win many games, but they're playing tough. That's all you can ask for. Perfect job if you're a Cardinals fan. Falcons need more. Look, I'm a Falcons fan. Obviously, they're 2-0, but I'm by no means getting ahead of myself. They probably should have lost against the Packers. If the Packers were healthy, I think they would have lost. Desmond Ridder is still a roller coaster, if we're being nice, of a quarterback. He has moments where he looks like he should be benched, and then he has moments where he looks like a top 10 quarterback in the league. Bijan Robinson looks like potentially being the best running back in the league, even though he's only played 2 games. The defense is better, but they still can't rush the passer. Look, I think the Falcons they're a hard out for any team because they're a quirky offense. They run the shit out of the ball, and the defense is decent, and they play in a really crappy division. I think they're going to be in the playoff mix in the NFC. I still think they're probably a year away from being true contenders. I think they still need, if they had a legit edge rusher, and maybe they need one more piece on the offensive in terms of maybe just one more weapon, because they still don't know how to use Kyle Pitts. He doesn't do enough in the passing game. Drake London's decent, but if they could add one more piece, I think they'll be right there. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens at quarterback, but we're assuming they've invested in Ridder for at least the next year. So look, I think Falcons are in the mix in the NFC, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to do too much in terms of actually success in the playoffs. Baltimore Ravens, definitely potential for me. I think with the new look offense, Todd Monken's come in as the new coordinator. Lamar got paid coming off the injury, but I think all the pieces are there on the offensive side of the ball. As long as that O-line isn't a complete disaster, I think the Ravens have all the pieces to be one of the best teams in the AFC. Caveat, I do worry about the defense. They're a young defense, and they're one of those units where I think most people assume every year, the Ravens, they're such a tough team, they're so well coached, they're always going to have a good defense. Their defense, they can't rush the passer. They just haven't got any consistent pass rushers. The secondary is the strength of that team, but we saw this week like Marlon Humphrey was out, and they lost the other safety who was going to miss a few weeks. I can't remember his name now. So that side of the ball does worry you a little bit. And if they have started just playing kind of shootout football, that would be probably more not in terms of the style of the Baltimore wants to play football. But I think on paper they're right up there, and I think I want to see how that defense progresses through the next few weeks, but I see them moving up, not down in this list. I think that they have all the potential to be Super Bowl contenders. So happy to put them there. Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be controversial, but I think they need more. I think this is where I'm trying to be as pragmatic as possible in terms of from where we think the Bills or thought the Bills would be in preseason to where I think they are now. For me, I think I have tons of questions about that team and not a lot of answers. I worry about, and I worry about multiple things. I worry about Josh Allen. I worry about Josh Allen getting injured. I worry about the defense not being old, not being able to rush the passer consistently. I worry about the wide receiver room in terms of I worry about the Stephon Diggs stuff that's going on there. It seems like that won't go away. Their inabilities in certain games to have any sort of option outside of Diggs. I think there's a lot of questions in Buffalo, and until we get some answers there, I think that they're in the right position there. So Panthers, ugh, it's gonna be a long season. I think Carolina. I didn't really like any of the moves they made this offseason. I didn't like bringing in Frank Reich as head coach. I didn't like trading up for Bryce Young. I didn't love Bryce Young as a prospect. I especially didn't like going up and spending multiple picks to go and get him. I didn't like trading away DJ Moore. And they're broken. Look, mate, hopefully Young can the problem for Young is that you just really worry about someone, especially with his stature. You just really worry about he's playing behind a bad offensive line with no weapons. He's just going to get smashed around all season, and at some point that just becomes you don't learn anything. That just becomes a flat out negative. So look, yeah, not that optimistic really about the Panthers, if we're being honest. Another team I'm not optimistic about is the Chicago Bears. If you haven't gone and watched the quarterback schools videos on YouTube of the Bears offense from both weeks 1 and week 2, they're about an hour and a half long each episode, and they are absolutely fantastic insight. If you want to go and learn about the game and learn about the Chicago Bears and why they're an absolute disaster right now, learn about quarterback play, go and watch the quarterback school on YouTube. Absolutely must watch every single week. The Cincinnati Bengals. Do we go here or do we go here? We'll go needs more. But if Joe Burrow is going to miss time, they're straight into irrelevant. Cleveland Browns. The defense looks really good. And I like most of the offensive pieces. If Deshaun Watson can be anything that isn't shit, I think they're up here. But until then, they have to be there. Dallas Cowboys. Look, they haven't played anyone. Their schedule is really easy. We're not going to find out much about them for a few weeks. But from everything we've seen, they've got the best defense in the league. They maybe have the best defensive player in the league, and Micah Parsons. And the offense, they haven't needed to showcase what they have in the locker. But on paper, they still look like one of the best offenses in the league. So look, I think Dallas, I think they're legit contenders, and I think they're going to win a lot of games this season. I really do. Denver Broncos. I think they're irrelevant. They're not completely broken, but they're 0-2. It just seems like a ticking time bomb. Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. They got absolutely. Wilson was smashed around by that Washington defensive front this week. I think that Commanders' defensive line had something like 38 pressures in the game. It was absolutely mental. But the Broncos, they're not particularly good. They haven't got enough talent in terms of their options on offense. The wide receiver room is still lacking. The offensive line is terrible, and the defense should be pretty good, but they haven't played great start of the season. So look, I think they're irrelevant. The Detroit Lions need more. Everyone loves the Lions. Look, I get they're a fun team, but I think ultimately their defense is terrible, and for all the offense is the strength of that team. Jared Goff can only do so much for you, or a unit with Jared Goff leading it can only do so much for you. And I know their play calling is fantastic, but I think they need Goff to play his very best football to even move up here, and I just don't see him playing at this high level for the duration of the whole season. So look, happy to have him there. Green Bay again. God, we're going to see all the NFC teams going to be in here. Green Bay Packers, need more. Jordan Love has looked okay to start the season. The offense, I like the offense is really young, and they've got this weird scenario where David Bakhtiari is essentially, even though the team won't admit it, and he's not on the injury report. Any week that he plays on turf, it just seems like he's not going to play because that's where he had his injury. So something to watch with the Packers there if you're betting on them, because he's one of the best left tackles in the league and he just doesn't play on certain weeks, even though no one tells you that. So look, that's a storyline to follow. The defense is better this year, but I still think, as we saw against Falcons this week, they gave up 200 yards on the ground. They can't stop the run. The pass rush is pretty good. I like the defensive tackles they've got there, but yeah, the safety play on the back end still isn't great. So look, Packers, I think they're very much in the mix to win the North, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to do much more than that this season. Texans broken. Could potentially move them up to irrelevant, and I think I will. I don't think they're broken. I don't think they are. I think CJ Stroud played pretty well week 2. I think even though that on paper that receiving core isn't great, he's found a real repertoire with Nico Collins. Tank Dell is now being integrated into that offense. The defense sucks, although I've said multiple times I hated the move to go and come back up and get Will Anderson after taking Stroud. But Anderson looked pretty good, or at least he looked good in week 1, didn't do much in week 2. I don't think the Texans are broken. I think they are heading in the right direction, but they just need a talent influx. And so, at some point, they keep drafting in the top 5 and nothing happens, but nothing gets better. So at some point, we are going to have to actually see improvement. But I like what I was in from Stroud to start the year, and that's the most important thing. Oh, Colts. I'm trying really hard not to put them here, and I won't, because I still need to make sure that Richardson's going to be healthy moving forwards, which he should be, hopefully. But I have them closer to here than I do to here. I really like what I've seen from the Colts. I think they are going to be. I think they are real, true wild card contenders in the AFC. I really do. Jags. God, everyone's going to be in this bloody middle category, isn't it? Jags. I have so many questions. The defense is just bad, I think. I really do. I think the defense is bad. And I know they've got a couple of players out on the offensive line, so when they come back, they should be better. So that should hopefully move them up to here. Look, definitely a team I see trending up, but for now, I've got enough questions that I'm going to leave them there. Kansas City, look, potential. For me, maybe this is controversial, but I think from what we've seen just based on this year, there's a ton of question marks about the Chiefs. Yes, the defense looks fantastic, but defense is up and down. You can't rely on defense week in, week out. Defense is noisy. Based on the actual strength of that team and how that team's been put together, they haven't got many answers at wide receiver right now. Travis Kelce's injured. He's still not healthy. They need to find answers before they can move on to being true contenders. I don't think that's that controversial. I mean, Chargers broken. If they're broke, they should be in here because they are broken in terms of. I think Brandon Staley is going to get fired. I really do. I can't see him. I can't see him surviving too much longer. That team just seems broken, and Staley has seemed broken for the last year, and they keep finding ways to lose winnable games. So look, they're clearly not in with these teams in terms of talent level. They should probably be here I think the Chargers could still end up there this season. I really do. I think they could still be one of the best teams in the AFC. And on paper, their roster is fantastic, but for now they're broken. God, the LA Rams, what a great start to the year. Great story. And really just a kind of tour de force from Sean McVay and from Matthew Stafford. Just, I think, reminding everyone that, look, we won a Super Bowl a year ago. Motherfuckers, we're still here. What's this here song? I'm still breathing. So, look, need more. Look, the defense still is probably pretty bad outside of Aaron Donald. And the offense, for all it's been fun watching Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell, have 20 targets a game. I do worry. I have questions about how long until someone just finds the answer to this the offense, and they just kind of struggle. But and the offensive line isn't great. How long isn't Stafford going to be able to stay healthy? But for now, you have to be really impressed with LA. And look, they're another team. They look like I had them going to be winning like 3 games this year. They look like now they could be a potential playoff team in the NFC if they can keep up this level of play. So hats off to the Rams. The Raiders, they're irrelevant. Jimmy G, good week 1, bad week 2. He didn't have Jacoby Myers in week 2, so he was missing one of his 2 wide receivers. Devontae Adams started the season well. The defense is absolutely terrible. Top 10 pick Tyree Wilson's done absolutely nothing. Yeah, they're another team who's just kind of treading water till next season. Completely irrelevant. Miami Dolphins, contenders. I think they're the best team in the league at the moment. They'll be if the Super Bowl was today or tomorrow, I would pick the Dolphins to win. I think they're fantastic. I think they've got the best offense in the league. If you want to watch an offense and how the job that they do in stopping their wide receivers being hung up or strung up at the line of scrimmage and having everything just happen at breakneck speed, just watch the Dolphin scheme or what Mike Daniels does, because it's just absolutely fantastic. It really is. The Vikings. What do we go here? They're 0-2, but they're a feisty 0-2, and they can score points in a hurry. I think they can still be relevant. I do. Kirk Cousins is playing pretty well, and they've got Justin Jefferson, who's arguably the best wide receiver in the league. Defensively, they can't stop anyone, but neither can most of these teams. They have to be there for now. Oh, the Patriots, they could fall into irrelevant through nothing more than just their schedule being brutal. But I've been fairly actually impressed with how well the Patriots have played to start the year, even though they're now winners. Saints need more. Slugged it out against the Panthers on the road. So they're 2-0, but I picked the Saints to win the NFC South, and I picked them to win the NFC, I think, but they haven't looked great. Derek Carr hasn't looked great. Yeah, they've been a bit of a disappointment, even though they currently sit 2-0. So slightly disappointed with New Orleans. Oh, the Giants obviously need more. Look, they're clearly not a great start to the season, and going down by 3 scores against the terrible Cardinals wasn't on the script, but I think the second half of that Cardinals game should hopefully get them going. Although that being said, Saquon Barkley looked like he had a fairly significant ankle injury. They've got a short week this week. Have to see. They're going off, flying to the West Coast to face the 49ers. So that could be, that's a scheduled loss, isn't it, really? Thursday night football with no Saquon. So they could fairly quickly fall down here. But I like Dable. I think he's a good coach. And yeah, and to be honest, I like Daniel Jones. I like watching him as quarterback. I think he's fun. Jets, irrelevant. Defense is fantastic, but who cares? They can't score any points. The offense can't block it. The offense can't block anyone. Eagles, look, could put them in here, but for me, I don't think the Eagles have been great to start the year. I know they've won both games. I think they're kind of just going through the motions at the moment, and I feel like they are. I feel like they're a million miles away from playing at their best level. So I'm happy for a little bit of a watching brief. The Pittsburgh Steelers, God, I have to put it needs more. I've got too much respect for Mike Tomlin to put them down here. You worry about if they're going to score enough points as the season goes along, but they always find a way. Seattle, if you did this after week 1, I would have been completely out on them. After week 2, I'm now like they're one of the best teams in the NFC. They're going to win. They're going to score a ton of points this year. They can't stop anyone, but they're going to be involved in all these fun games, all these shootouts. They can join this bloated middle class of teams here. Look, they're just like essentially all these teams. They have good parts to their rosters, but they have this fundamental flaw. And the Steelers, their defense is horrific. The offense should be pretty good. Worry about the offensive line. But in games where they can block everything up, they're going to score a lot of points. They've got a lot of weapons. Gino's a good enough quarterback. He can find his targets. Yeah. 49ers, contenders. Easy. Let Brock Purdy's come back. He's been just fine. That's it. But he doesn't need to be anything more than that in that offense. That's perfect for what Shanahan wants. The defense is really good. That defensive line is nasty. They're one of the best teams in the league. Easy. Simple. Bucks need more. Baker Mayfield, great story. Come back with a vengeance, starting quarterback, playing good football. Bucks are 2-0. Look, that I said it in the preseason. That team, for considering how much Super Bowl winning talent was still on that roster, the Bucks were being slept on. Baker's come in. He's been pretty good. Probably won't continue for that long, but if it does, and as for as long as it does, the Bucks are going to be contenders in terms of they're going to be feisty and they're going to be contenders to win games. And at present, the NFC South looks wide open. The Panthers are completely done, but the Falcons are 2-0 and the Saints are 2-0 and the Bucks are 2-0. But the Saints are far from impressed. The Falcons look like a flawed roster with a quarterback who is completely kind of up and down and bipolar. The Bucks are, for as long as Baker plays well, they're going to be right in the mix in the NFC. Titans need more. For me, I see so many similarities between Tennessee and Pittsburgh. Two teams, and they always find a way. They always play gritty football. They can always grind out these close games, make it ugly. And for all that I look at their roster in general and look at the Titans, it's just terrible, and I can't see them winning any games. Mike Vrabel always finds a way. So I think the Titans, as they are pretty much every single year, they're in the mix. Washington, I tell you what, to add to my love affair for the Indianapolis Colts, I've been so impressed with what Sam Howell has done since he took over the starting quarterback job in Washington. I think Howell and Commanders, they've got something going on there, and I think if he can continue to develop this year, and if that O-line can give him just a bit more, his biggest flaw by far somehow is that he just walks himself into too many sacks and takes too many big negative plays by doing that. If that line can just give him enough protection, he is such a nice thrower of the football. He throws a really nice ball. He reminds me so much of Ryan Fitzpatrick and how he plays the game. So look, I really like what I've seen in Washington. Look, clearly need more. The defensive line is, as it is every single year, is absolutely nasty. The back end of the defense is pretty terrible, really young, and the offense is kind of wildly up and down considering Howell's at the helm. And if you watch the absolute game of the year so far was the Commanders at the Broncos this week, because the Broncos were all over them to start the first quarter and a half. And then for the second week in a row, it was the Broncos safety, Kareem Jackson. It was an absolutely horrible hit in the end zone against the Commanders tight end, whose name I can't remember now. And that really just changed the game. Washington didn't look back after that, and they absolutely smoked the Broncos. And look, they're one of those teams, Washington. They've been irrelevant for so long, but if that line can get a little bit better, and if they can add a couple of plays in the secondary, I think, heading into next season, this team is going to be on the improve. So look, that's where we see the NFL at the moment. Obviously, there's, as we said earlier, there's this bloated middle ground of where we see there's 6 teams who we think right now are either contenders or could be contenders. The majority of the league then sits in this area where there's obviously good parts of all of these teams, but they have some fundamental flaw. For me, it's watching really is which direction then do these teams go? Because, and for me, the thing is, I would be out of these teams in here now, so not in the top 6. How many do we really think could actually make their way up here and actually win the Super Bowl? I look at that list now. I'm not sure. I would be pretty, again, could be clipped up for this, but I feel pretty confident looking at that the Super Bowl winner is going to come from one of those 6 teams. Let's look through this list. Who else do you see? I mean, the Chargers may be the one who could go all the way up. And as I said, look, I think they could end up here if they sort things out and or fire their head coach. Have to see. Talent-wise, they should be up here. But they're broken at the moment. So look, that's how we see the season. As I said, for me, I've seen the Dolphins as the best team in the league at the moment. I just think they are untouchable in terms of offensively. They haven't even played a home game yet, so can't wait to see them there. Defense, they haven't been good, but they've had two rough road games. They've had the rest disadvantage. So Vic Fangio is one of the best in the business. So more than confident they can turn that around to some degree. Ravens, need to see a little bit more out of the defense. I need to just trust that the offense can continue to play at this level, but Lamar looks good. Chiefs, got to find some wide receiver help. Eagles, I still think they played that well. I want to see them kind of move out second gear. And then, like I said, it's just finding out which of these teams can any of them move themselves up into contention, and or which ones are going to fall down into these bottom categories. So look, I hope that has been useful for you guys, and I hope that's been. I thought it was just a good way of visualizing kind of how we've seen the early season play out, and just the kind of the trends and things we're looking for in this early season. And like I said, for me, it's a real, it's been years and years of watching the sport. It has helped me kind of. It's really important to try and leave your prize at the door and just use stuff like this to actually represent what you've seen from the early season, and realize that kind of we have to try and realign our opinions with what we see. And look, it's really hard, and I struggle with it every single year. But as we get to kind of weeks 3, 4, 5, we have to start moving off our priors and reevaluating and making some sort of new lists in our head, or however we do it, new power rankings, new power numbers, however you want to rank this stuff. So I hope that has been useful for you all. As any questions or comments about any of this, and please do let me know. I really appreciate you all watching today. If you guys could all head over to our YouTube page and like and follow that would be absolutely great. It's been good to see some more interaction on there. And look, hopefully we've had a good start to the year with our betting previews and our tips going up. So hopefully that can continue. We're putting up quite a lot of fantasy football information just in terms of to help you guys with nothing to do with picking your lines or players or anything like that. Just in terms of information. So we do our weekly newsletter, which just really gives us a game by game summation of all the key stats and all the key information from each game. And then we do a weekly injury roundup in terms of heading into the next week, just to help you guys pick your lines, whether that be for daily fantasy or just straight up just in picking your team selections. So look, tons of content up on the channel, and always trying to push out more and more. As we said, if you guys have got any questions about anything that you've seen here, please do let me know.